Running back is the most loaded it has been in years at the top, and the most dangerous has been in years in the middle rounds. Today, we're putting them in 5 tiers: who you build around, who you start with confidence, and who the market has completely wrong. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. How we doing? How's it going? I'm Fab, and I'm joined as always with Raj and Nak. We got a, we got another fire episode, ladies and gentlemen. We got another fire episode, another tier episode. This time we're working on the money that is the draft. For it's where everyone puts their dollars there. Everyone is the most important, the meats and potatoes of the world, the guys that you need, the running backs, the running back tiers. Those big body boys that just like bum right through the offensive lines and score them touchdowns. That's who we're going to be profiling today. This is the position that separates great drafters from everybody else. And the one where the most money is lost in the middle rounds every single year. So there's always that dead zone RB period that's like so hard to figure out, who am I drafting this guy. Well, we're going to be talking about those guys. But before we do, quick plug. If you missed our tight end and QB tiers episodes from the last 2 weeks, both are in the description. So please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We are, like we mentioned before, we're in full swing on pre-draft previews, and we have waivers and sit start content every single week now once the season begins. So that's what we have for you guys this week. We have running back tiers. We got 5 tiers. We got one liner per player. We're gonna have plenty of disagreement, and we start off with everybody's favorite Knack. Tier one, it's yours. Go for it.
Thank you, Fab. Yes, tier one. These are the slam dunks. Build your roster around these guys. You're definitely going to pay the price. At number one, we have Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs. 1,200 rushing yards and 13 TDs, 77 catches in 2025. So the most complete back in the NFL and consensus Bush League Huddle number one. Bijan Robinson, almost 1,500 yards last year, 79 catches in 2025. Algier is now gone. Stefanski arriving, and all-time rushing and receiving records are within reach. Big season upcoming. And fun fact, he got paid today, 3 years, $75
Mhm.
million, highest paid running back at the moment. Number three, we've got Christian McCaffrey, finished overall RB1 in 2025 and had 102 catches. The talent is definitely undeniable, but he has missed 20 plus games over the past 3 seasons. The floor is the only question, and maybe the substation. At number four, we've got
Wow.
Jonathan Taylor. So led the NFL in rush attempts and TDs in 2025, RB1 from weeks 1 to 10. Jones is returning from Achilles, and we saw what Kirk Cousins looked like post injury. So kind of keep an eye out there. Next, we've got James Cook the third, 1,600 rushing yards in the Bills' elite ecosystem. Fab actually keeps him in tier one, and me and Raj have him drop down to tier two. And last but not least, we've got Devon Achane, 1,350 rushing yards, 67 catches in 2025. Now there's McDaniels gone. Willis is at QB. The offensive line ranked 31st per PFF, and Rodgers has him dropped all the way down to eighth, the lowest out of everyone. So, Raj, this has been a debate all season long. We have this in the group chat, but I want you to tell the listeners why we have Gibbs over Bijan as a consensus RB1 this year.
I had a hard time with this. This was probably the hardest ranking that I went back and forth, and I ended up changing. I started with Bijan as the RB1 this offseason, and I reverted back to Jahmyr Gibbs because of the numbers. One of the things we looked at early on in our shows was the Draft Sharks fantasy environment. They have Detroit as the fourth best environment in fantasy. And also have Atlanta as the 22nd best environment. So we know Detroit is kind of a plug and play environment. Everything flows with, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jahmyr Gibbs. They are always in the red zone, always there to attack. And Atlanta, obviously Kevin Stefanski should in theory look better, and we like some of the talent there, but it's still with Tua and still with Kirk Cousins and still a little bit unsettled. And I think overall Gibbs has just been the better touchdown scorer throughout his career. Last year he scored 18 touchdowns with 46 fewer touchdowns, and over his career he has almost double the touchdown rate that Bijan Robinson has. He has a touchdown rate of 6% versus Bijan, who's 3%. So. And I think the deciding factor for me is David Montgomery's gone. So in 6 games without David Montgomery, Bijan had averaged 23 carries and 138 scrimmage yards and 1.3 touchdowns per game. Obviously, this is a projection and a pace, but that pace is out to 2,300 scrimmage yards and 23 touchdowns in a season. So I am all in on Jahmyr Gibbs, and he is the bona fide number 1 running back in fantasy this year.
Yeah, honestly, it's really hard to argue with that logic. I have had him last year, picked him with pick number 7. That's obviously not going to happen this year. But yeah, with Montgomery gone, I don't see Pacheco carving in that much of a role either with his running style. So I do tend to agree with that assessment. And Fab, actually, you kept Taylor, Cook, and Achane all in tier 1, and Raj and I had all dropped down in tier 2. So are you? I don't know. I want to ask: are you being too aggressive on all 3, or is there one you feel strongest about defending?
Honestly, I'll defend all 6 of them. Like, to me, these are the 6 running backs that have a potential to finish as RB1 at the end of the season, and once upon a time have been very close to RB1 during the course of the season. Like, obviously McCaffrey, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor last year, we mentioned it from weeks 1 to 10, like, was just on fire. James Cook showed us last year that it doesn't matter if he has a touchdown regression because he's going to lead the league in rushing yards. And then Devon Achane is just that guy. It doesn't matter what type of offense they're running, he is that guy. And oddly enough, all 6 of those guys finished as RB1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 last year. So just to say, I think that if anyone is drafting one of these guys, and like if you have a chance to draft one of these guys as your RB1, as your anchor RB, your hero RB, and all that, I think you'll be very satisfied. I think you'll be very happy, and I think they deserve to be in tier 1 because you can argue with any single one of them that they'll finish as RB1 at the end of the year, and it wouldn't be a crazy conversation.
Yeah, look, honestly, all good points. I just thought, I mean, my reasoning, I'll just give it quickly. I just thought Gibbs, Bijan, and CMC were just in a class of their own. But
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
right. I mean, it just the other ones are they would be a bit murky for me in terms of the actual offense. Besides, I guess James Cook, but no, I definitely tend to agree.
That was my reasoning as well. Just quickly, like,
Yeah.
to me, those 3 had Taylor, Cook, Achane. I felt they all had question marks, and I've even McCaffrey, the injury, aside from the injury, there's no question mark. And Bijan and Gibbs, like, those guys are bona fide. They're going to finish top 3.
I'll push back on that. I don't think there's any question marks for Cook and Achane. Taylor, I'll give you question marks because of the offense, because of Daniel Jones coming back.
With that offense that he has.
Achane's in probably the worst offense in the league.
Yeah, but he's gonna get the ball all the time. You want volume. He's gonna be catching, passing the flats. He's gonna be so much volume is gonna be there with this guy. So much. He's the only offensive piece if you think about it. What's the question mark? Too much volume?
But that's problematic. Yeah, but volume doesn't necessarily equate to production, right? Like, there's going to be
but a lack of
boxes,
volume.
there's gonna be
A lack of volume does equate to no production.
No.
That's just my argument. Like, and the same, like, how much worse is the Miami Dolphins offense this year than last year?
They don't have a scrambling quarterback.
Miles.
They didn't have a scrambling quarterback last year. They have a scrambling quarterback this year, who scrambling quarterbacks tend to run with the ball themselves instead of the check down.
Okay.
The offense is miles worse this year.
Miles worse? No, that's an exaggeration. Listen, what are we arguing about over here? Having with this guy in tier 1 over tier 2? Like, seriously.
Well, I mean, it's still miles worse. Like, they lost their number 1 wide receiver, right? They lost Tua. Their O-line is 31st in the league. Like, it's I would say miles worse than last year.
That's just so much better. That's just so much more volume for Devon Achane. I don't know. He even said to himself, he wants to. He's looking for personal and statistical accolades.
Look, if he's there,
that's what you want as a fantasy player.
If he's gonna get Christian McCaffrey this year, I think. like how Christian McCaffrey was kind of pushed down to almost like the second round. I think that's what's going to happen to Devon Achane. I think we all would be very happy to have him.
Yeah, that's a good call. He's going to be a value play for somebody.
Yeah.
Sure. Hodge, we'll keep it going with tier 2.
Absolutely. So tier 2 is the set it and forget it, high confidence starters, draft and deploy. So we start off with Amarian Hampton, finished as RB35 last year in just 9 games, but we're all very high on him with the fact that Mike McDaniel is a new OC, fully healthy. He was ranked 6th in targets per route run among all running backs as a rookie. He had 32 catches last year in those 9 games, so on pace for a decent amount of yardage. Next up, we have Ashton Jeanty, 975 rushing yards in a 3-4 Raiders offense. Obviously, the O-line improved with Tyler Lindenbaum. The Kubiak effect is in full play, and Cousins will be bridging at quarterback. Knack has him at 7th overall, highest of anyone. And then we have Saquon Barkley, just a shy over 1,200, under 1,200 yards in 2025. I have him 6th overall. I'm still very high on Saquon. Eagles elite O-line, but Hurts owns the goal line. Biggest knock on his ceiling is obviously the tush-push factor, but a lot of changes on that offense this year. Then we have Chase Brown, 1,000 rushing yards and 69 catches in 2025. He finished as the RB7 very sneakily. His health, the health of Burrow changes a lot. When Burrow is healthy, Chase Brown is basically a 19, 20 point per game player. Fab has him 8th overall, highest of anyone because of that factor, I think. And then
100%.
we round this tier off with Derrick Henry, all reliable, almost 1,600 rushing yards, 16 TDs in 2025, finished as the RB8th, even as age 25. Knack drops him to tier 3. Fab and I still keep him in tier 2. We still believe in Derrick Henry, regardless of age. We need to see it before we believe the dip. So we just mentioned Henry put up those amazing stats. Knack, you have him at tier 3. Fab, what is the case against Henry at 32, and do you buy it?
The case against Henry at 32, it's the fact that he's 32. I think that's the only case, to be honest with you, because there's no other reason why you could be fading this guy. There's no other reason why you could be fading Derrick Henry, who's been putting up like 1,500 yards consistently every single year or every other year, and double-digit touchdowns, like with his eyes closed. In the Baltimore this year have a new offensive coordinator. They have Declan Doyle, who was a former offensive coordinator for the Bears last year and led the Bears in 3rd most rushing offense in the NFL in 2025. And now, he gets Derrick Henry. So that's exciting if you're going to be drafting Derrick Henry, I think. So yeah, I don't really have a case for this at all, to be honest with you. It's one of those things where, like, you know what, I'm willing to keep on drafting Derrick Henry until he falls off. I think he's earned that right on it, to be honest with you. And if he is your RB2, like, hey, when do you go pick up your championship? I don't know. I don't have an argument against this. I really don't.
I think he sneaks into the 3rd round this year, oddly enough. I just find that people are waiting for his drop-off or his demise, Could be a sneaky pick in the 3rd.
Fab,
if he falls.
Fab, you are someone who, I think you rightly said it. If you owned Derrick Henry last year, you probably didn't make the playoffs.
Yes.
Right? Do you still, is that something that worries you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I think 4 touchdowns and 500 yards came in the last 3 games.
The big game against Green Bay, I think 200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
So, like, if you got to the playoffs, you probably got to the playoffs with Derrick Henry despite having him. But at the same time, he probably helped you win a championship because, like, he balled out when it counted. You know what I mean? So there's that to consider too. At the same time, he's being drafted as an RB2, right? And there's still a lot to like as an RB2 when you have Derrick Henry. He's a high-end RB2. And you're going to really be enjoying those games where he goes off. It's again, like, there's so many guys that I would rather take Derrick Henry over so many guys that have so many more question marks. And we're complaining about a guy who's literally like,
100%.
Old faithful.
I just wouldn't be excited about him as my RB1.
That I agree with. I would have some trepidations on that too. But if he is my RB1, the rest of my team is most likely stacked.
Guys, in what league is it's gonna be hard pressed to see Derrick Henry as your RB2 in any lineup. But I think it's Similar to Achane, he might get pushed down. I like what I'm hearing out of Ravens camp with regards to Declan Doyle. It sounds like there's a big shift from what, not great for us Giants fans, Fab, but like from what some of the players are saying about John Harbaugh and that regime. It sounds like there's some new ideas. Obviously, last year Lamar Jackson was out a lot of games as well, which I think also impacts Derrick Henry's rushing style. So
Yes.
I tend to agree with you on that front. We're going to move on to someone else that we talked about in this tier. So I have Saquon Barkley as the 6th running back, higher than not higher than McCaffrey, but I have him pretty high. Hurts taking the goal line work. We talked about that being the real knock on Barkley. Obviously, there was some issues last year with the play calling with Kevin Patullo. Knack, am I completely unhinged, or does Barkley deserve to go that high?
I don't think you're crazy. I think Barkley absolutely belongs in the tier 2 group. I just can't get him all the way up to 6 for me. Like it comes down to ceiling versus floor, really. Like the floor is phenomenal. That's for sure. He's still behind an elite offensive line, and he's in one of the league's best offenses. So he's going to get his touches, but that's why I still have him as my RB9, right? He's still a top 10 back. And the reason I have him behind a few other guys is how you just mentioned, is Jalen Hurts. Those are goal line carries that are incredibly valuable in fantasy, and Hurts really takes most of them. And any quarterback, then he takes more than any quarterback in the league, maybe not named Josh Allen. And it's hard for Barkley to truly separate himself when some of the best touchdown opportunities are going somewhere else. I feel like he would need to go back to 2024 explosive play Barkley in order to live up to that RB6 or better standard. So I don't think you're unhinged, but if someone drafts Barkley at 6, I get it. I just think that there are a few players at higher overall ceiling, which is why I have him, like I said, 9 instead of 6.
Very fair point. My counter would be the offensive line was banged up last year. Lane Johnson missed 8 games. Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson were injured in some of those games as well. I think his efficiency also took a dive. So in 2024, yards before contact, he was 3.8. That was one of the highest in the league. He fell down to 2.3 in 2025, which is a clear impact from the O-line. And now they're getting, obviously, no Kevin Patullo. Sean Mannion is coming from the Green Bay Packers, more under center. I think a lot of analysts talked about it last year. They were probably the most predictable rushing attack there is. I think there's going to be way more unpredictability with that Shanahan-like offense, and I could see a return back to kind of that high explosiveness, high running ability, and rushing attack when the tush push was a big factor anyways, and he still had an elite year. So I could see where people are a bit trepidatious about that, but I'm all in on Barkley for 2026. Fab, let's move on to tier 3.
Oh yeah, tier 3. This is honestly tier 3 is where you got to either make or break some fantasy championships. I think this is the startable tier, viable weekly starters with real question mark attached to them, but still could be very interesting. So just some quick hitters right now from a ranking perspective. So Josh Jacobs there. So I have him as ranking 12. Knack has him drop down to tier 4 as ranking 18. It's the biggest gap on the board over here. Travis Achane, I had him drop down to tier 4. Knack and Roger kept him in tier 3. Jeremiah Love, Knack had him at overall ranking 13. Roger had him at ranking 19. So there is a bit of a discrepancy here. We're gonna go through each one by one quickly. So Kenneth Walker the third finishes RB22 last season in Seattle's committee. Now he's in Kansas City with Mahomes, Andy Reid, a bunch of hooligans and felons over there. All right, the market has him as RB11. We have him as Bush League Huddle 12, RB12. Kyren Williams, my boy Kyren Williams, finishes RB9 last season. 2025, Rams gave him a $33 million extension, then immediately installed him in a 60-40 split with Blake Corum. Touches dropped from 21-17 per game, and Corum continues to loom as an elite handcuff. Javonte Williams, redemption tour is continuing for Mr. Javonte Williams. Finishes RB12 last season, Dallas's number 1 fantasy environment. Market has him as RB17. We have him as RB14. Josh Jacobs finishes RB13 last season. This is Roger's favorite player, by the way. I bump him up to a ranking 12 in tier 2. Knack drops him down to 18 in tier 4. At age 28, 4 yards per carry, now 100-yard game, a legal situation unresolved. It's the biggest gap on the entire board. Then you got Jeremiah Love, the rookie in Arizona with a 4.5 win total offense. Knack has him aggressively high at 13. Raj drops him down to 19. You have the quarterback room that everyone expected to have, the quarterback battle between Jacoby Brissett and Carson Beck, the 28th overall ranked O-line as per PFF. And you got Breece Hall, 1,400 yards from scrimmage in 2025. Quietly, 1,400 yards from scrimmage. 3-year, $45 million extension locks him in. Frank Reich historically splits his backfield between a rushing down and a passing down back, which directly caps Hall's ceiling in both phases. And again, the aforementioned Travis Etienne Jr. finishes RB10 last season in a career high 13 TDs. He signed a 4-year, $52 million deal with the New Orleans Saints. Kamara is still on the roster. Saints projected with projected 26 in offensive TDs. I dropped them all the way down to tier 4. Knack and Raj keep him in tier 3. So Josh Jacobs, polarizing name, if you will. He finished his RB13 last season. I have him as tier 2. I still think there's a lot of consistency there, if you will, albeit maybe not very high, but I think there's a decent floor. Knack has him at tier 4. At age 28, okay O-line. Obviously, that legal situation exists. So, Knack, defend dropping Jacobs to tier 4 when myself and Raj have him a little bit higher.
Yeah, and look, this is definitely one of the biggest disagreements on the board. And it's not that I think Josh Jacobs is bad. I just don't see his ceiling anymore. Like we said, we look back at last season. He did finish RB13, but it wasn't because he was dominant. He averaged just 4 yards per carry and didn't have a single 100-yard game, as you mentioned. And a lot of his fantasy value came from volume. Like that's a dangerous profile to bet on as a back gets older, right? So you add his uncertainty. He's 28. Offensive line is good, but not really elite. And there's still some off-field legal issues hanging over him. Maybe it ends up being nothing, but it's another risk that I'm definitely factoring in. So for me, when I'm drafting in this range, I'd rather take a swing on younger backs with more upside, like Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Kenneth Walker, and then bet on Jacobs repeating last year's workload. Look, he's still startable every week, and that's why he's not all the way down my board. But I don't see him outperforming enough to justify a tier 3 ranking or tier 2 ranking in some cases. So I get why you guys have him a little higher. I just think you're paying for what Jacobs used to be, and whereas when I'm ranking him based on where I think he's headed.
I don't know if I'm paying for where he used to be. I think he is very much a mid-tier RB2. Maybe I have him a little bit ranked a little bit higher than that, but figure RB12, 13, 14, like in that range, right? That's where I kind of see him, to be honest with you. And that's more or less where he finished last year too. And the thing why I have him maybe ranked a little bit higher is because he's still RB1 over there. He's still volume guy. He's still a goal line back. He's still going to get first, second down work and all that stuff. And he did miss a few games last year. He did have less attempts than the year before. And he still finished with 4 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns, a decent amount of targets, decent amount of receptions for him to sustain that value. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I do. I kind of see Josh Jacobs a little bit safer than some of the other guys over here. And I say some of them, not all of them. I say some of the other guys over here from that respect. But it's a very good point. One guy that I don't see safe at all anymore is Travis Achane, even though he finished his RB10 last season with a career high of 13 touchdowns. And Kamara is still on the roster. New Orleans projects with a 26, or projected for 26 in offensive TDs. Raj, am I right to fade him, or is Achane being undervalued by the market at RB18?
Yeah, I know you have him at 22 and I have him at 17, but I think the market is remembering the touchdowns and forgetting everything else. Like, yes, he scored 13 touchdowns last year, but he went scoreless in 8 of 17 games, which is about 47%. Most backs are closer to 25 to 30% of games that don't have a touchdown. Where they don't have a touchdown. And Devin Neal's still there. Alvin Kamara's still there. It's going to be a pass-first offense. We talked about a lot of explosiveness with this offense, with the Kellen Moore offense, with Tyler Shuck and Jordan Tyson and Chris Olave. And one of the things with Etienne that I've always talked about is he's never been a great short yardage back. I could see Devin Neal taking over some of that role. Audric Estime is still there too. And from a pass catching efficiency standpoint, I believe he had 31 catches and about 200 a little bit more than 200 yards or so. I think he had 5 or 6 TDs, but He had a 3-touchdown game. So there's a lot of aberrations I find with Etienne. He's hard to rely upon. And for me, I priced him at 17. I would much rather have, a lot of the guys I had, even Josh Jacobs, who we're poo-pooing a little bit on lower upside. I think I'd still rather go with Josh Jacobs because, as you said, he's RB1 there, not much competition. And it's still an offense I trust a little bit more. And I think I even had Breece Hall even just above him, considering the talent. So,
yeah, I agree with all those points, especially Breece Hall over Travis Etienne. And to your point about the aberration, so that game where he had 3 receiving touchdowns was against the Jets. He had 4 targets for 3 receptions for 3 receiving touchdowns. So those are asterisks, like our friend Lucas knows all too well. So you can't really count on all those things all that much. But I agree. I mean, Travis Etienne to me, it really, really worries me. He really scares me. It's not really somebody that I'm targeting at all in an offense or from an RB perspective. But anyways, unlike Travis Etienne, Roger, I will hand it off to you now. Sorry, excuse me. Knack, it's up to you right now, I think, with tier 4. Is that right? Yeah, it is.
It's me. Tier 4, guys, it's the solid flex play. You've got to know the situation with these guys. So up first, we've got Cam Scatterbo, was on pace actually for a top 10 running back finish before his gruesome ankle injury ended his season in week 8. And the Giants offense is improving with Jackson Dart maybe coming up in year 2. Then you've got DeAndre Swift, finished at RB15 last season. Now in Chicago's elite Ben Johnson offense, and up into now it's year 2, with that offense behind probably one of the better offensive lines in the league. First as per PFF, and market has him as RB24, but we have him as RB20. Then you got my boy Bucky Irving, finished as running back 34 last season. Heavily hampered by injury, and in Tampa, where Gainwell could share or take over passing down work, Raj actually drops him down to running back 24. Then we've got Bishal Tutin, finished RB53 last season, and obviously very limited action with now Etienne gone. 197 rush attempts are projected. Raj drops him down to 26, but Fab and I both have him at RB20. Then we've got Quinton Judkins, finished RB26 last year. Raj actually moves him up to tier 3 with new head coach Todd Monken. Browns dead last actually in fantasy environment per Draft Sharks at negative 3.82. yeah, it is pretty funny. We could take a second to laugh. Up next, we've got David Montgomery, finished RB27 last year behind Gibbs. Now has Houston's rebuilt O-line. ESPN run block win rate was 32nd last year. So with elite weapons, if the line holds. Trevion Hedgeson obviously flashed a little bit last year, finished as RB21. Patriots with A.J. Brown arriving. Fab dropped him down to tier 5, but me and Raj keep him here in tier 4. Then you've got Chuba Hubbard, finished RB38 last season. 0 guaranteed money in 2027, so he's playing for his next contract, and Fab actually drops him down to tier 5. Then you've got my boy Jalen Warren, finished RB17 last year. Raj actually keeps him in tier 4. Fab and I drop him down to tier 5, competing now with Rico Dowdle, who looks to be the early season RB1 in Pittsburgh under Mike McCarthy. Next up, we've got Tony Pollard, finished RB23 last year. Raj keeps him in tier 4. Fab and myself drop him down to tier 5, and the Titans ecosystem ranks 31st per Draft Sharks. Then you've got the aforementioned Rico Dowdle, finished RB18 last year. I kept him in tier 4, whereas Fab has him in tier 5, competing with Warren, obviously, in Pittsburgh. Then you've got Jadarian Price to round out the group. Unproven rookie, obviously, but now Walker's gone, and Charbonnet is going to miss some time recovering from his ACL. I actually have him as 24, and Raj actually drops him all the way down to running back 39. Biggest gap in this tier. So just to keep it going with Jadarian Price, he does have Walker gone and Charbonnet coming off an ACL. Like I said, I have him as 24th. Raj drops him down to 39. Raj, why are you so low when the opportunity is right there?
Yeah, Kenneth Walker is gone, but it's still a committee. I think everyone's just handing this role to Jadarian Price just because he's a rookie and he was drafted pretty decently high for running back. But I still see a committee. Actually, weeks ago, ESPN Seahawks beat reporter Brady Henderson said Seattle didn't draft Price expecting him to be a high volume starter right away. That was a word for word quote that came from him. That is Seattle literally saying that they don't see him as a viable starter right away. There's still George Halani, who he was a camp darling and preseason darling last year. Zach Charbonnet is on the pup, physically unable to perform list, but he should be back, and he was a big goal line vulture last year. And one of the pathways for a lot of rookie running backs is either getting 10 carries a game, or at least getting some touchdowns, or catching passes. Price in 3 years as Jahmyr Love's backup, he only caught 15 passes in 3 college seasons. So if he's not getting passing down work, he's not getting full workload. What's the ceiling for him? So I'd rather just drop him down.
Pretty interesting perspective, actually. I know Holani, everyone liked kind of him last year, and he's looking good in camp. I think Charbonnet, that's just the biggest question mark because he's probably going to start the season on the pup.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a ramp up period for the running back. So I think Charbonnet could miss or be ramped up for at least half the season, if not longer. So that's where my kind of eyes go, even if Price gets the early down work with Holani getting the pass catching role. Quinyon Judkins is going market RB21, but the Browns, like we mentioned, are dead last in fantasy environment per Draft Sharks. Fabs, is Raj seeing something we're not, or is the ecosystem too broken to trust anyone on that roster?
I think it's too broken to trust anyone on the roster, right? Like just so Quinshon Judkins, I think he held out or had some issues in week 1 last year. He started week 2, and he didn't play.
It was police related.
Right. So I want to give the guy benefit of. Yeah. So it was police related. And then he got injured towards the end of the season, but he's a full go at camp. He's a quintessential, in my opinion, low end RB2, just judging by the fact of that offense that he plays in. And it listen, Todd Monken as our new head coach, give him a bit of a bump from a rushing perspective. And we all know what Todd Monken did with Baltimore and that rushing offense, and the aforementioned Derrick Henry for a few years and all that stuff. And no, I'm not comparing Derrick Henry to Quinshon Judkins, but give the guy a little bit of a bump from that perspective. I just don't see this being viable, to be honest with you, as far as fantasy success is concerned. You're looking at his stats from last year. He had 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks where he finished as either RB11 or better, and everything else was in the RB40s and 20s and 50s and all that. Do you know what I mean? It's a bad offensive line. It's a bad offense. It's not a great quarterback situation, whether it starts Shadur Sanders or Deshaun Watson. There's also Dylan Sampson there, which I know won't necessarily take away too many carries from Judkins, but still, they did draft another rookie running back, so there's that in the room. So yeah, I mean, draft at your own peril. To be honest with you, if we're talking about guys in this tier, Quinshon Judkins is one of, if not the last one that I want to be drafting.
Even more than Chuba Hubbard, like
Chuba Hubbard, he'll have a role, and it's I can't believe I'm saying this. It's a much more effective offense. It is more effective offense than the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
and Chuba Hubbard, the Jonathan Brooks scenario is very real. This is obviously probably going to be the last year that you can draft Chuba Hubbard this high for the Panthers offense, I think. And then if you want to round out every single other guy over here real quick, just to see which one makes more sense. I mean, even Tony Pollard, I'd rather have him. Even Jadarian Price, you know what? At least I might get 4 decent games out of him. I don't know. Like I have no interest in draft.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Judkins is just very weird. It's a very weird player. You have to take him when the time is right, and you can't overpay because.
Yeah, for sure. And if I'm wrong, hey, I'll be the first one to eat crow. But I'm not putting anything on Quinshon Judkins being better than RB2, a low on RB2 this year.
I think
nothing against the talent. It's all against the environment.
I get what you guys are saying. I think I still like the upside. I still like the talent. I think I fell in love with some of those games where the efficiency isn't great, but there's some 18 for 94, 1 TD games against Green Bay, 21 for 82, 1 TD against Detroit. Again, not great efficiency, and even 23 for 110 against Minnesota. Those are really tough defenses. I think the offensive line is going to be better. It will be better because they made some signings, Spencer Fano.
Yeah.
So I think I'm optimistic on that front. I totally get what you guys are saying, but I like the upside because the talent to me, I think he might be the most talented back in pure talent in this tier, maybe along with Trevion Henderson.
Oh, that I agree with 100%. You're totally right about that. He's definitely the most talented back in this tier. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's more sure. I think there's other players in here that have a higher ceiling and a higher floor that I'd be much more interested in.
All right, Raj, why don't you take us home with tier 5?
Yes, tier 5. These are the bye-week fill-ins. Some names down here. We'll go quickly. Kenny Gainwell, RJ Harvey, Jonathan Brooks, Zach Charbonnet, who we talked about earlier, Ramondre Stevenson, who he's still going to be a thorn in Trevion Henderson's side, I believe. Kyle Monangai, and a few others there. Aaron Jones Sr., Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Bill Okrosky-Merritt. So for me, 3 guys that I really like in this tier. So RJ Harvey, Bush League Huddles, we had him as RB35. The market has him as RB30. Finished RB20 last season. 12 touchdowns as a rookie. He tore his labrum in the AFC Championship game, which obviously scared everyone off. Looks like he's fully ready and healthy for camp. I think he's a solid bet here as a pass-catching back. I know they got Jonah Coleman. I know J.K. Dobbins is supposed to be a thing again, league winner, ha. But as we know, J.K. Dobbins constantly gets injured. And I still like the talent that RJ Harvey has, again, more so as a pass-catching back. Jonathan Brooks, we've talked about him a ton in this podcast in our offseason. Yes. We have him as the RB34. The market has him at RB37. We know about the 2 ACL tears in the same knee in the last 13 months. They let Dowdle walk. I think the fact that they let Dowdle walk and the amount of impact he had last year replacing or spelling Chuba Hubbard, I think that's very telling. I think Jonathan Brooks is bound to have a very, very solid season, and he's the type of guy to take if you have him available in the later rounds. Swing for the fences for him over some of those more known commodities. And then there's Kenny Gainwell. We have him as RB31. The market has him as RB36. He finished as the RB16 last year. I believe he had 70 some odd catches. Knack, wasn't he the Steelers MVP last year as well? Aaron Rodgers absolutely loved him. I think he's going to make a huge impact with Tampa Bay. Obviously, Bucky Irving is still there, but he's been hampered with injury history over the past few years. I think Gainwell is a bona fide great play as your flex option. So those are just a few of the guys here at tier 5. Again, this is more bye-week fill-ins, but if you have an opportunity to get someone with upside who could maybe eventually be an RB2, definitely look for those upside swings or some of those PPR guys. So now let's talk about who the market has completely wrong in our last closing segment, or where we're going to talk about some of the running backs who may or may not have been mispriced.
Yes. Thank you very much, Roger. So very simple exercise here. Each one of us is going to pick one player, buy or fade, the market we think has completely wrong. Name, gap, conviction. That's it. So I'm going to kick it off just because, you know what? The guy that I'm about to choose is very near and dear to my heart. Mr. Kyren Williams. We have him as ranked collectively RB13. The market has him as RB15. He finished RB9 last season. He's finished as RB10 or better, RB9 or better, basically as a top 10 RB in the last 3 years. So why am I buying? I don't think Blake Corum is really going to be a thing necessarily. And even if he is a thing, I still think there's going to be more than enough volume for Kyren Williams to carve out a low-end RB1 role. Williams will reassert himself as a workhorse as he always has. The extension signals the Rams believe in him, and I think he finishes an RB1 range. Again, low end, albeit. I'm not going to sit here and bump my chest and say he's going to finish as a top 5 guy. But is RB10, RB9, RB11 very much in sight? I think so, for a guy that you're going to be drafting as an RB2. And I'll go one step further. Ever since the LA Rams Week 8 bye last year, Kyren Williams out-carried, out-targeted, and out-snapped Blake Corum. And specifically, when it comes to a target perspective, you out-target him 33-11. And in a PPR league, you like that a lot. I think Kyren Williams is the guy. I think he got torched from a goal line perspective because Matthew Stafford was just spamming those 1 yard touchdowns to Davante Adams, but or else that would have gone to Kyren Williams too. He is a goal line back. So that's what I think. That's my 2 cents. I'm sticking through it. If Kyren Williams is there for me as an RB2, I'm drafting him. You heard it here first. 10 toes down. How are you? Roger, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to be fading Jeremiah Love. We have him as RB16. Market has him as RB13. Obviously, the market has learned from the Ashton Jeanty experience last year, but I don't think they learned enough. Obviously, for me, the fade reasons, bad QB, or at least limited QB, bad O-line, very bad ecosystem, and we talked about it last year, the last few weeks, the worst schedule in the NFL by far. Finishes outside I think he finishes outside the top 25 as a rookie. I think the market is pricing him way, way too high. And I think the thing that concerns me the most, Nathaniel Hackett somehow is their offensive coordinator. He was terrible as a head coach with Denver. There was a quote where they were asking about Jeremiah Love, and Nathaniel Hackett was basically saying, yeah, he's a rookie. And he was saying how he's more excited about James Conner and Tyler Algier. Imagine that. The running back, the rookie electrifying running back that you took 3rd overall, and all your offensive corner has to say is, yeah, he's a rookie, and you're more excited for James Conner and Tyler Algier. That's all I have to hear, and I do not want anything to do with the Jeremiah Love experience, personally. Nak, who do you have?
Wow. Yeah, that's wild, eh? Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of those guys that someone's going to grab really early and then really regret it early on in the year, I think. I'm curious to see where he goes in our draft. For me, I have Javonte Williams, actually. The market has him as RB17. We have him as RB14. And last year finished as RB12. Guys, I think we've been broken radios on this pod with this Dallas offense. Like, if Dak stays healthy, Dallas has the #1 fantasy football environment per Draft Sharks. I think we've said that 17 times. And I think he came in and he really asserted himself in that offense. And there's something to be said that each player in that offense could potentially finish top 5 at their position. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like, I feel like this team, and this is me coming from the biggest Dallas Cowboy hater on the planet, from a fantasy perspective, they are fantasy gold. Like, if Javonte Williams finishes top 5, I wouldn't be shocked. If Lamb or Pickens finishes top 5, I wouldn't be shocked. Dak as well. Dak could finish as QB1 almost. Like, it really depends. Like, and you're not going to be shocked. You want a piece of this offense any way you can, and I think the disrespect on him going all the way down to running back 17, I'm buying hard on Javonte Williams here. That's a wrap, boys, on the 2026 running back tiers, the position that makes or breaks fantasy seasons. So know your tier, ladies and gentlemen, know your price, and do not let the draft day panic push you into a situation where you do not trust. Do not miss next week. We've got the wide receivers, the pièce de résistance, saving the best for last. That one
8
should
tiers.
be
Can't wait.
spicy.
18
It
tiers,
should be
guys.
spicy with the wide receivers next week. But don't forget to follow us, guys, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Send us your questions. We answer everything. See you next Tuesday.
Good night,
Peace
everyone.
out, everyone.